Good afternoon and welcome to the Rush. Welcome to the Rush this afternoon. My name is Randolph Critchlow. We are happy to have you here, those persons joining us internationally in the region and right here in Guyana. It is Thursday, the 8th of July 2021, and we have quite a lot to unpack today. Folks, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Let's unpack. Good afternoon again. Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back. Welcome back. We are here. We are on the rush. We're in the rush this afternoon. It seems as though we're in a rush because we are going very quickly this afternoon. I think we might be having some internet problems. Let us know if you're hearing me loud and clear out there in internet land. Let us know if you're hearing us loud and clear, folks. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I think our internet may be a little sketchy this afternoon. I don't know what is happening. I do not know what is happening, but we are having a bit of a delay, if that is the case. Good afternoon again. Let me just get this right. Right, folks, we are ready. We are ready to go. Forgive us for that little technical problem that we had there, but we are ready to go. My name is Randolph Critchlow. Welcome to those persons joining us internationally in the region and right here in Guyana. As we usually do on the afternoon, folks, let us know. Let us know where you're joining us from so we can give you a shout out. You know, we have our little chit chat with our loyal viewers before we start the program proper. So let us know. People are saying that you're getting us loud and clear. Thank you very much for that. Let us know where you're joining us from this afternoon. I see Barbados in the house already. Yep. We hear you loud and clear from Meadowbrook. I see my friend. I see you. Thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. To all of our loyal viewers, our loyal listeners. We are going to be unpacking some issues from what is happening in the news. Crime is on the increase, folks. Crime is on the increase, and we've been telling you this. They installed incompetent Minister of Home Affairs, Public Security, who is facing a no confidence motion right now, would want you to believe that crime is not on the increase, but crime is on the increase. Only today we saw a man beat another man to death, and apparently was caught on video. Folks, we are going to unpack all of what is happening around the country. Welcome to those persons. Welcome to all of you. We are happy to have you here. We're going to be talking about the no confidence motions. We see that the government has signaled their intentions to file their own no confidence motion. I'm going to read some comments and some reactions from the people of Guyana as it relates to that no confidence motion. Our opening take is going to be on that no confidence motion also. Mind you that the opposition would have filed no confidence motions against two of the sitting ministers. We're going to talk about the the hopes of that and the likelihood of those no confidence motions going through also. Likelihood of it being heard, first of all, the speaker has to pronounce on whether or not he will bring it up for debate, and also we will talk about the likelihood of it being successful, because these are all things that we like to unpack here, all things we like to unpack here, right? So we're going to be talking about that, and we are going to be talking about, of course, we are still keeping our eyes on the police force, right? The Police Service Commission, that showdown, that big showdown in Little Georgetown, that we're having with it seems as though that the Attorney General has decided that he will supplant the Commissioner of Police, and he will respond on his behalf. So there is a big showdown because the Police Service Commission would have given their go-ahead for promotions of officers, and the government is not having it. And there's a back and forth. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the crime. We also talk about these no confidence motion and talk some politics. We're hoping that you can call in today and let us know your views. Let us hear your views this afternoon. Right? Thank you very much for tuning in. Let's see. Let us know. Toronto is in the house this afternoon. Brooklyn. I know I like to give you your shout outs. Maryland is in the house. Linden, of course, Linden's in the house. Liberty Avenue, Queens. Right. Precious Mineral said, I share already. Folks, that's what we ask you to do. Share the live stream. If you're watching at us from YouTube, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you will know when we are live or when we post a video. You will get a notification. Lyndon is in the house. Mr. Williams, thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. French Guyana is in the house. Hatfield Street is in the house. Thank you very much. Brooklyn, Potentia, Barbies. Thank you very much. Northern Alabama, loud and clear from over there. Thank you very much. Well, that is in the house. Queens, New York is in the house. Cayenne is in the house. Philadelphia, Essequibo. Thank you very much for tuning in. North Carolina. Arima is in the house. Texas, all over. Puerto Rico, Trinidad and Tobago, New Haven, Connecticut, Suriname. Thank you very much, Hope Town. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon. Canada is in the house. Riverton, thank you very much for folks up there in Berbice. Thank you very much for tuning in. We also want to thank those trolls that are on the page very early. They come before y'all. They come and they tune in because they want to know what is happening. We're happy that you're here to hear the credible and valid information, the truth, so you can take it back to your groups and tell them that Randy said so. Right? Tell all of them that Randy said so. French Guyana, France is in the house. Texas, BV, Wakenham. Folks, I'm hoping that I get all of you today because, some people complain that I don't give them their shout-outs. For those persons who are following the NBA with me, the finals is on. We have the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. 1-0. Tonight is game number 2 from Phoenix. Phoenix is leading 1-0 for those persons who didn't have Phoenix, who count out Chris Paul and the young squad, Devin Booker. Sorry for you. If your team didn't make it, my team didn't make it this year. I let you know from the beginning, I didn't switch. I didn't jump on any bandwagon. I was a Utah Jazz from the beginning. And I stuck to my guns. My team was knocked out. Yes, Miss Facey, yes, game 2 is tonight, and we'll be tuned in to that. We say congratulations at the same time to the West Indies women's team who won that series that they were playing, West Indies female cricket team. Lots of sports happening. The Olympics is about to start in a few days, basically. A few days. In this same month, we'll have Olympics. It will still be labeled Olympic 2020. So don't be confused when you turn on your TV. They will not change. They're not going to change the labeling on it. It'll still be labeled Tokyo 2020, although it is going to be done in 2021. Our final set of shout out before we get into the program. All Boys Town is in the house. Thank you very much, New Jersey. Thank you very much, Antigua, Den Amstel, Meadowbrook Gardens. Thank you very much. Right, let's go, folks. UK, England. We are happy to have you on the program. Let's start unpacking some of the information of the day, folks. We have to start with opening take. Opening take for the day, folks. We have to start with the opening take. The opening take today comes to you compliments of Mr. Aubrey Norton. Of course, we know Mr. Aubrey Norton, a political scientist and executive member of the PNCR and the executive director of the executive director of the Office of the Opposition Leader. And his opening take today is quite interesting. I hope that we can follow. Let's see if I can do it justice. We're going to give you what he said about the recent news article that suggests that the PPP is going to move in confidence motion against the opposition. Right? So that opening take is coming up. We must not allow the PPP to shift focus away from their incompetent health and home affairs ministers. This according to Mr. Aubrey Norton. We must not allow the PPP to shift focus away from their incompetent health and home affairs ministers. He says, it must be the joke of the century that the installed PPP administration regime that they seek to file a no confidence motion against the opposition leader when the Constitution clearly states in Article 184 in reference to the leader of the opposition that his or her removal from the office is affected on the provisions of the next paragraph. And the other paragraph reads that where 1/3 of the non-governmental, and take note of that, non-governmental members of the assembly represented the speaker that the leader of the opposition no longer enjoys their confidence, the speaker shall call a meeting of all of the non-governmental members at which it should be decided whether the leader of the opposition shall be removed from office. The removal shall be effected by the votes of majority of all of the non-governmental members, meaning those members of parliament who are not in the government, the opposition. It is quite clear in the Constitution how the removal of the opposition leader happens. Means that only the opposition has a say whether the opposition leader can be removed. Clearly, there is no role for the government in the issue of confidence in the opposition leader. Makes you want to think, no. It is clear that the government has no local standard in this matter. It falls exclusively in the realm of the opposition. While the PPP has no interest in law and the Constitution, this will pose a major challenge that they cannot surmount since the opposition hasn't manifested any signs of no confidence in the leader of the opposition, Mr. Harman. No signs. Should they return to their approach of bribery, one may ask? It would appear that they have a lot of bribing to do. A lot of opposition members of parliament to bribe. There's little hope. There's little to no hope of Charanda Singh, the leader of the opposition. The opposition leader has the full confidence of the APNUFC members of parliament. So even if the possibility occurs that the depraved Speaker of the House manages to violate the laws and accept the motion, it cannot go anywhere. Let us see if this will happen. If it does, it will be a political joke. It is actually a political joke by the intellectually bankrupt regime. I would reason that the installed prime minister could read and understand simple law. Then you may ask yourself, why is he involving himself in such a behavior? Because if you do remember, this no confidence was hinted to be that it will be brought by the prime minister. This is according to the news report. Right? Is he in competition to outdo Sam Hines as the summit of foolery? I hope not. Clearly, the so-called no confidence motion against the leader of the opposition is to shift away from the no confidence motion, which is properly filed against the two incompetent PPP installed ministers, Robeson Ben and Frank Anthony, who have manifested their incompetence in handling crime, security, COVID, and other health issues. They are endangering the security, health, and well-being of the Guyanese people. Let us remain focused on exposing the installed regime's incompetence and its devastating impact on the people of Guyana. While the installed regime might be able to vote down the no confidence motions against their incompetent ministers, they will not be able to conceal the information that will come out in such a debate. It will expose the ills of this regime, educate the Guyanese people, and contribute to strengthening the people's resolve to see the back of this corrupt, incompetent, dictatorial regime. Success of the no confidence motion against the ministers shall not be measured by the outcome of the vote, but it will contribute to the raising of political consciousness and the long-term objective of the people of getting rid of this installed regime. I repeat, let us focus on exposing the PPP's corruption, their incompetence, their discriminatory behavior, and their dictatorial approach to government. And that came from Mr. Aubrey C. Norton, who is an executive member of the People's National Congress Reform and executive director of the Office of the Leader of the Opposition. And I think those points there are pertinent, they are key, and they are important for us to remember that do not be swayed by the public utterance of some. Let us focus on what is important, exposing these people, exposing the PPP for their corruption, their discrimination. And we will continue. So let's break it down, folks. Let's break it down for you as we stick on this opening take today. Let's break it down. The Constitution is very clear about no confidence motion. You don't need to be a lawyer. You just need to know how to read to understand that the government cannot bring a no confidence motion on the opposition leader. They have no role to play in whether or not they feel confident in the opposition leader. The leader of the opposition was selected by the opposition members of parliament, not the government. The opposition members of parliament decided on who should be the leader in parliament, and they selected him. So the removal of the opposition leader can't be done by a no confidence motion. What the PPP is essentially saying, look, we are going to bring a no confidence motion and ask the opposition members of parliament to let Mr. Harman go. And like Mr. Norton said, Mr. Harman enjoys the full confidence of his members of parliament. So this is doomed. As usual, we see the PPP engaged in tomfoolery, in political games. As we have so many other problems happening in the country, they are willing to play political games. But we shall continue. We shall continue to watch them. I want to say this before we switch topics on this issue of no confidence. Right? We must remember we must remember, of course, that this no confidence motion wasn't filed. This was reported in the state newspapers, apparently. Newsroom. Apparently, Newsroom has supplanted and replaced the Guyana Chronicle as the state newspapers. All right. So anything that the PPP wants to get out, they go and they chuck it in the newsroom. Newsroom online is the Guyana state newspapers right now. You won't see it in Chronicle, you know. You will see it in newsroom. So this wasn't filed. This was a report from the state newspapers that the no confidence is about to come. But folks, we'll not be distracted. We'll continue to stay focused. And let us talk a little bit about the no confidence motions that were filed against two sitting ministers. Let us first talk about the chance of it getting past the speaker. As we know, the speaker of the assembly, Manzoor Nadir, seems to be out on his own frolic and often finds ways to shut down motions of great importance that were brought by the opposition. Often finds ways, he twists himself in all sort of pretzel to tell the opposition the other day, for instance, that they can't bring a motion on the flood situation. Ganesh Maipal stood up and wanted to bring a motion for the parliament to debate what is happening with the flood situation in Guyana. It was the speaker who went back to some old precedent, 1900 somebody, to tell Mr. Maipal that the motion on the flooding is not urgent. Whilst people are losing their livelihoods, their lives, people are committing suicide because of the flooding situation. But it couldn't have been debated in the parliament because the speaker felt that it wasn't urgent. Therein lies the power of the speaker. So this is where we are at this point in time. The speaker of the assembly has to now decide whether or not these motions of no confidence could be heard and debated in the parliament. The likelihood of that happening, I am not very optimistic that that will happen. I am not very optimistic. And I say this not solely on my judgment of the speaker, but I say this because there is precedence available in the public domain and in the form of an opinion written by Mr. Raphael Trotman when he was the speaker of the assembly, and there was a confidence motion. There was a confidence motion on one minister, Mr. I think it was Rohi at that point in time. And that opinion stated, of course, that it wasn't the position of the parliament to remove a minister, and that minister would have to be removed by the president, or he would have to resign. So I'm saying this to you that I do not see, I think that this is an out for the speaker. I think that the speaker will opt to refuse to hear this motion on those grounds. He will find that, and he will say, this is what we are going to do. We are going to abide by the precedents created and this opinion put forward. So I do not think that it will pass the speaker. In the event that it passes the speaker, I do believe, right, that it is vital for us to hear those debates and those arguments in parliament by the opposition as to why these two men should be removed from their posts. I am interested also in hearing the debates from the government side as to why these two men who have clearly showcased their incompetence should remain in their position. So that is, that is a very interesting debate I would like to hear. Because from the eye test, from just looking, one can see that the crime situation is out of control. As an average citizen, I can say to you that I can look around, I can just box the newspapers and tell you that Robson Ben is not doing a very good job. Actually, he's doing a very shambolic job, a disastrous job, a mediocre job. As the minister responsible for security in this country, if you can sit in your office on Brickdam, Mr. Ben, and believe that you are doing an exemplary job, then you have obviously can't see, or you don't read the newspapers, or you haven't heard the cries from your own PPP aligned private sector. You haven't heard the messages coming out of the US Embassy that warn their own citizens about coming to Guyana and the crime situation. You haven't heard the cries of your own supporters, Robson Ben. Your own PPP supporters who cry out every day about how the bandits jumping in the house. You haven't seen the confusion of the Guyana police force. Obviously, that has eluded your vision, your whole circle. Obviously, the confusion with the Guyana police force has to land on your desk. It has to land on your desk, Robson Ben. So, it is quite interesting. Quite interesting. If Robson Ben believes that he has done a good job in the last 340 days of this fraudulent administration, then something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. We just need to point to the Henry Boys and Harris Singh's murder. One high-profile case, one. And look at how the Guyana police force, which is under your charge, Minister Ben, has carried themselves with disgrace. To quote a popular line from Mr. Slow, they have failed to govern themselves accordingly. Mr. Ben, you have failed to govern yourself accordingly. And as we look over at the health, the Ministry of Health, we don't need to say anything else. We just need to point to your handling of COVID-19. Disastrous. Disastrous. It was this same PPP administration, I hasten to remind people that it was this same PPP administration that looked at the Liliendal Hospital, contagious disease hospital, built in the very early days of COVID by the APNU AFC. The foresight of the Minister of Health, Walter Lawrence, at that point in time, to say, look, this facility is something that we need. It was this PPP administration, this PPP regime, that looked on it with scorn and ridicule. They said it's a waste of money. So somebody getting something and they ridiculed Walter Lawrence. And this was very early in COVID, when she had the foresight to say, you know what, this is something that we will need. The PPP took over this country. They were installed. They took over the management of this country. And they relaxed all of the measures put in place to curb the spread of COVID. they pushed back the curfew, so essentially you could party. So their friends that own the nightclubs and the bars, they could get their monies. They said they can't keep people locked down forever. Nobody's saying that you need lockdown forever. You need lockdown until you have a vaccine or the virus, the manageable place. We only need to point to the procurement of Sputnik V vaccine from a middleman for X amount of money, far more than the market value. Minister of Health, who seemed to be oblivious at the point in time when this thing came up. These two ministers seem to be oblivious to what is happening around them. I don't even know if Robson Ben knew that his party was creating a parallel police force, a police unit, regional support unit, whatever it is, whatever the name was that Madam Gail Teixeira brought to the parliament. We have to ask ourselves whether Robson Ben knew about it. And if he knew about it, he should feel a way that he wasn't asked to bring this bill to the parliament as the minister responsible for security. What does that say about your position there? Folks, we have to ask ourselves too, whether or not the Minister of Health knew about this purchase of these vaccines. Folks, as that is happening, we are also seeing continued chaos in all segments of our society. Continued. Right? Luziknan farmer beaten to death by nephew during row over plantains. That's what's happening in our country. Let me share that story with you. Quite sad. As we come on air, we read these stories, folks. We have to share them with you, as sad as they are. We have to share them with you because it is a sign of the times. It's a sign of the times. The times that we are living in, folks. It is a sign of the times. Right? As we're picking up this story from the news source, quite sad. Quite sad. As according to the police statement, folks, according to the police statement, the man and his 22-year-old nephew got into a heated argument after the nephew went on his farm in the back dam to pick plantains. There's video evidence of it. What is happening in our country? It's serious. It is serious. And they installed the Minister of Home Affairs, recently stood in the parliament, said that he is not going to admit that crime is on the increase. He didn't say that he's not going to admit, but he didn't admit. When questioned by Shadow Minister of Home Affairs, Gita Channon Edmonds, about why is it that the police force would want these additional things, and why is it that you have to create regional support teams? You obviously are acknowledging that crime is on the increase. Obviously are acknowledging that crime is on the increase. Folks, we have to be careful. We have to be safe in our own country, and we do not have confidence in the Minister of Home Affairs. But as I say this, folks, forgive me if I didn't finish my thought. But we were speaking about the likelihood of these no confidence motions being passed and the success of it in Parliament. As I said, is for me, I believe that the Speaker is going to block it. And even if it passes the Speaker, I believe, of course, that they have the majority. But as was said by Mr. Aubrey Norton, the success of these motions is not measured in whether or not they got more votes. But we must be able to talk about what is happening in our country and debate it. We must be able to go into those hallowed halls and say to the Guyanese people that, look, X is happening and we need accountability. We need accountability. So the PPP, of course, at this time, at this hour, have the majority in the Parliament, and they will obviously use that majority to back up and shore up their ministers who are doing a shambolic job at their in their post. But so we can expect that. We can expect that, folks. We can expect that. But as we said, these things need to be illuminated. They need to be talked about. And, you know, as person said, you know, let me address this because I saw someone in the comment talking about action. I know I would have said this before, but I do believe that we are inching closer. We're inching very close to that point in time when we will have to stop talking. We will have to stop talking. We're inching very close to that point in time. Some may argue that we have passed that. We had 340 days of this administration's cruelty, inhumane behavior. Does anybody remember those persons at the back of success that the government claimed were squatting on lands that they wanted for Gaisuko to use? This was a matter of weeks after they took power. Weeks. Remember, those persons were flooded. Remember, those persons were shot. Their bridge to access the place that they were living broken. This administration from day one has displayed their inability to be humane. Just to be humane. Nothing else, no big sort of requirements, just be humane. This administration has displayed, the PPP has displayed their inability to be fair, to be just, and at the most basic, to be humane. We only need to point to success. We only need to point to COVID relief. We only need to point to the flood effort. We only need to point to the countless persons who were sent home simply because they were hired under the AP and UAFC. Sweeper cleaners, drivers, office boys, office girls, data entry clerks. These are not people who influence anything in the public service. They're the lowest paid public servants who are trying to get by in COVID. Inhumane. The fact that the vice president could say, well, you know, it's sad that a few people, God, you know, you wake up and you see 2-3 persons die. It's sad, but, you know, these things happen. Callous. Callous. Inhumane. What sort of people would flood their own people? their own citizens, would send the police to shoot them. Folks, 340 days is long. We are almost a year. We are a few weeks short a year of this fraudulent administration. A few weeks. We haven't even talked about the scandals. We're just talking about the inhumane nature of some of their actions. But every single day, more and more corruption comes to the fore. Guy Oil, GPL, you count them. Guy Suko. They have placed their friends and cronies in these positions and they are sucking this nation dry. Folks, let me say this to you. And I'm so honest about this that I believe that the day or the time for action is very close. And as I said, some may agree that it has passed and enough is enough. And that this fraudulent administration don't understand anything else but action. They don't understand anything else. They understand action. And it's the right of the people. It is the right of the people to protest. You have a civil right to make your voices heard if you feel oppressed and suppressed and discriminated against. You have the right to make your voices heard. You have the right to take the streets. It is your right. That right to protest is protected. That's a constitutionally protected activity. Nobody can tell you that you're not supposed to protest and agitate and try to effect change in your country. Because what else do you have? The situation is such in this country. Our parliamentary setup is such that once you have a razor-thin majority, one seat more, you essentially have all the power. It has been so for a while. The problem is that when persons are in that seat, they don't see the necessity to change the system. So to say now to the PPP, well, you're representing half of the country, but you're acting like you're representing the 100%. They know that the parliamentary setup allows them all of the power, essentially. And the opposition is essentially powerless. And until that changes, what the people have are their voices. Until that changes, what the people have is their ability to put boots on the ground, to protest, to agitate, to make as much noise as possible for people to understand that you are feeling oppressed. Folks, until that time comes, that is what the people have. So I hear you. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear, those persons who have been sounding the alarm and saying, look, it is time for action. Folks, as we move on, We want to give you an opportunity to make your voices heard. We want to give you an opportunity to make your voices heard this afternoon in our Have Your Say segment. I see a lot of people talking in the comments. Many people have a lot to say in the comments. We're going to open the phone lines and give you an opportunity to let your voices be heard this afternoon. Right? Let your voices be heard this afternoon. Laura Williams, I hear you. I hear you. Loud and clear. I understand the frustration that people are feeling. Right? But let's open up the phone lines, folks, so that persons can get to call in as we wrap up this program. We are going to wrap up in a bit because we have to hand over to Miss Annette Ferguson for her program Across the Waves. And then, she'll take you up to 7:30, and then we'll be tuning into Sherry Duncan at 8 for In the Ring. So I want you to stay tuned to APNU AFC for the rest of the evening as we continue to bring you credible and valid information. But we'll definitely be continuing our daily broadcast. Right? So we'll definitely be doing that. So again, we'll be tuning in. We'll be tuning in to Miss Annette Ferguson in a few minutes. But let me give an opportunity, folks, to let your voices be heard on the show today with our Have Your Say segment. Right. It is time to have your say this afternoon. 618-7321. 618-7321. We want you to express yourself this afternoon and have your say. You know how we do it here on the program. You call us, make it short. Let us know what you're thinking. What are your thoughts on what is unfolding in Guyana at the hour at this time. Again, we will not be taking any calls from unknown numbers. Busy Signal said it best, folks. Busy Signal said it best. Right? We'll not be answering any unknown call. Right? So 618-7321. 618-7321. Let us know what is happening. Give us a call, folks. We want to hear from you this afternoon as we wrap up our program. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to the Rush. Have you say?
Good afternoon. I think that it's time we do get up and protest. We need protest. We need boots on the ground to show the entire world that we are fully well affected by all the ills of the installed regime. That is my comment.
Thank you. And I agree with you, caller. I agree with you 120% that we are quickly approaching. We're quickly approaching the right, folks. We have some breaking news right now. Sorry about that, but I'm just getting some as we speak. This is from Newsroom. Marlon Hunter T on February. 2 men reportedly admitted to being paid $100,000 to burn GCOM building in Linden. 3rd man arrested. Intellectual authors being pursued. This is coming out of Newsroom. I might take it with a pinch of salt because I don't trust them. So I'm going to take it with a pinch of salt, but this is some late breaking information. Of course, we'll be talking about this in more detail, right? The crime chief Wendell Blanham confirmed to the Thursday. Let's take another call. Caller, good afternoon.
Randy.
Welcome to the Rush. Have your say.
Thank you. Now, my say is this. I would like to know why aren't Guyanese on the streets right now?
You have a question?
Why why while they have Mr. Winseed in America, right, facing the FBI, and here Mr. Slow and Mr. Peters have these lot hey up going up the creek. This is the time for Guyanese people to be out on the road. Strike the iron while it's hot. Keep the fire going.
Yeah.
This is the time we need to be on the road. This is what we needed right now. This is the time. This is the perfect timing. That's my say. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good night.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much for your contribution. We hear you. We hear you loud and clear. We're going to be joined by Miss Annette Ferguson in just a moment, and as we transition to her program Across the Waves. But we're going to be joined by her in just a moment as we wind down on program time today, folks. There every single day in this country, every single day in the country is another, as my colleague Sher Duncan would term it, pocketary. Every single day. Folks, we have a few minutes more left on the program. Let us hear what you have to say. 618-7321. Give us a call. Right? Again, folks, we're following. Let me see if I can share this bit of breaking news for you. I'm kind of in between two minds because of where this thing is posted. It is posted on a newsroom. As I said, I take it with a bit. I cannot confirm the authenticity of the report as it comes from a newsroom. I cannot confirm, but I will share with you folks as it was sent to me. Two men reportedly admitted to be paid $150,000 to burn GCOM building in Linden. As we get it, we are bringing it to you live and direct. Folks, we have another call. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to the Rush. Have your say.
Good afternoon, Mr. Critchlow.
Good afternoon.
Since our black men are always being targeted whenever there is a protest, hear my plan.
Yeah.
Put the women in front. Women, babies, infant children, everybody, put them in front and leave our men at the back.
Wow. Well, I wouldn't want that at all. If I'm out there, I wouldn't want to put the women and the children forward. The men must stand up. The men must stand up.
Effective, trust me. It's going to be effective.
Well, we don't know with this heartless, inhumane regime, they might as well shoot everybody. You never know.
I don't think so, my brother. Let's pray about it.
All right.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Folks, we are getting ready to transition to Across the Waves with MP, the Honorable Annette Ferguson, who will be joining us now as we get ready to transition. MP Ferguson, good afternoon.
A pleasant evening to you, Randy, and to our listening audience and viewership. A pleasant evening to you too.
Pleasant good evening. What do you have planned this afternoon for us on Across the Waves?
Boy, I got some hot topics. COVID must be the top one for discussion. Then we got a whole situation with the two motions that were filed by the opposition leader.
Yeah.
So you need to let our people know the reason behind the filing of those motions.
Yeah.
Also, we will talk a bit on the high cost of living.
Yeah.
Also, what is it? Unemployment. We got a situation with the Guyana Forestry Commission staff.
Yeah.
So we need to touch on these matters.
Yeah. As I have you here, let's just jump in a bit. Let me pick your brain. as we're getting ready, folks, to transition to Anna Ferguson's program. I want to just to go in a little bit on these emotions that I was sharing with my viewers. That of course the PDP has the numbers in Parliament. It's a numbers game at this point in time. But what is important is that we get people to understand how shambolic these two
Hmm.
ministries are being run. Crime
Yeah.
is crazy, and of course we have at the same time the PPP playing political games with a supposed it was, I don't know if it was filed today, but a supposed no confidence motion against the leader of the opposition, which they really don't have the right to do. So interesting times as a parliamentarian. I want to know what are your thoughts.
Well, indeed, if I'm to pick up from your last point,
Mhm.
interesting times indeed, because nowhere in the hemisphere, whether here in the region, probably even in the developed countries, you've never heard a government bringing a no confidence motion against an opposition leader. And, we need to remind our viewers and listeners how the whole um, election of the opposition works. It
Mhm.
is the opposition members in the in the National Assembly, sorry,
Mhm.
who would identify, right, their person to be the opposition leader. And by virtue of our votes, that person is assented to the position of opposition leader. So anybody to bring a no confidence
Has
motion
to be the
against
opposition.
the opposition leader gotta be the members, the 30 members on the opposition benches. So Randy, this whole thing with this government is just a gimmick. They just
Mhm.
don't understand. They're there to govern, and it seems as though they haven't, caught their link as yet to move this country forward. It was them who said to this nation that they got a better policy to carry Guyana to the next level. We are yet to see, for 341 days since they have been in office, and we
Mhm.
are yet to see where their plans rather to carry Guyana forward to to all that
Yeah.
they shared with us. So
But there's
Randy,
no plan.
let's see how it goes.
They've been jockeying on the thing the things put in place by the AP and UFC ever
Mm-hmm,
since for a whole year.
mm-hmm.
I mean, like passing south, if those persons who are living in South Ronville at the festival city entrance, that huge building that is going up there,
Oh
that
yes,
municipal clinic,
the
polyclinic,
polyclinic.
yes,
Yes.
which is like
Mm-hmm,
a big hospital, which was
mm-hmm,
needed in that large area. They had a little piece of thing attached to the library before. Now they're getting a big building, right? Um,
mm-hmm.
Close to a hospital size in South. And the PPP, they're going to go there when it's finished and wave and smile and cut ribbons as if, they had some sort of vision for the people of South River. When it was Ms. Valda Lawrence and the APNU AFC who had that vision to build this building. Down at Brickdam, at the head of Brickdam, they're going to, the Minister Frank Anthony, fraudulent as he is going to be sitting in that brand new office when that building is finished and smiling like, look what we did here. When it was Valda Lawrence and the APNU AFC that had the vision for this Ministry of Health to this brand new spanking building. And we can go
Ex-
on all across the
exactly,
ministries, all across.
exactly. But you know what is the sad thing here, though, Randy?
Mm,
They don't want Guyanese to remember how Guyana was after May 15th, 2015, after May 11th, sorry, 2015,
mm-hmm,
up to the 2nd of August when they took over the reign of governance, illegally as
mm-hmm,
they are. So everything that the APNU government would have done, they tried to wipe it out. We
mm-hmm,
have seen with those school buses, they hadn't a vision to put school buses across the 10 administrative regions in this nation. You understand me? And we had those buses branded. And I want to remind our viewers and listeners, it wasn't taxpayers' money that procured those buses.
Yep.
bicycles, and boats. Those were, gifts that were given by concerned Guyanese who want to see our nation's children in school so that they can enjoy a better life. But you know what? Because of them not having such a vision for 23 years, when they got into government, they scrapped that. They're not maintaining. I guess they hardly maintain the buses. They've removed the names David G school buses and had the buses now rebranded by Region 6 or Region 10 school buses. We have seen, even with information being put out there, Randy, we're
Mm-hmm.
not getting information in a timely manner. And whatever is coming to us, we know it is it's about propaganda and it's about lies. This is what this administration is doing. We were able to put over 200 plus ICT hubs across this nation. You could have been way down in Achiweb getting access to your relative here in Georgetown. Now, those people are not getting it. Why? Why are you starving the people? It was the APNUFC government that created hinterland radio stations. These are the things we ought not to forget. We have our narratives to tell, and that we must continue to put it in the heads of our Guyanese brothers and sisters. So
Mm-hmm.
they can now make the comparison. Who was the visionaries and who are the visionless?
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm happy that you said that, and that's a good note to end on this afternoon as we transition into your program. Thank you very much. We look forward to your discussion with your guest this afternoon, MP.
Thank you very
Right,
much,
right.
Randy. Good. Bye bye. Good.
Folks, let us close off the afternoon rush here. Thank you very much for those persons who stayed tuned this afternoon. Thank you very much for your participation. Let's continue, folks. Let's continue to work together for national development. Those persons who joined us from Guyana in the region and all over the world internationally, thank you very much for your participation this afternoon. My name is Randolph Critchlow. Again, do stay safe. Stay tuned right now as we go to Miss Anna Ferguson across the waves and join us at 8 for Sherry Duncan's In the Ring. Thank you very much, folks.
Pleasant evening to you viewers. Welcome to yet another program or another edition of Across the Waves. This this evening. We have so much to discuss, but before getting into the actual discussion or topics to be discussed this evening, allow me to take this opportunity in expressing congratulations to those of you who are celebrating whether a birth anniversary, a death anniversary, or a new addition to your family, or also a wedding anniversary. So, congratulations for those of you who are celebrating um, those such occasions, and also my sympathy to those persons who would have passed on. So my condolences also to their loved ones. I know that you had a long weekend. The last week was the last weekend was actually a very long one, where you had on Monday, we celebrated another year as um, a country being part of the Caribbean community, commonly known as CARICOM. So I know that last Monday was a holiday, and I trust that you enjoyed your weekend. You had a well rested weekend, and you were able to start the week well energetic, well energized, and also well rejuvenated after those rests. That being said, as I said before, thank you once again for joining me here on Across the Waves. Um, Again, my brothers and sisters, I must start off by reminding us all that COVID is real. And that is why on all of our programs on these outlets, you will continuously be hearing from us, encouraging persons to be careful, to be cautious, and to ensure that they adhere to all the preventatives or the preventative measures out there as it regards to COVID, because COVID is indeed a killer. To date, our death toll stands at 484. 484. So that in its sense is saying to all of us that people continues to die, and that the government has absolutely no plan, right? Absolutely no idea. They're fully incompetent. They're inept in dealing with this whole pandemic. But you know what? The first COVID case was discovered on the 11th of March. And on the 11th of March, we had just concluded our the 2020 March general and regional elections. So you hadn't a budget because it was an election year. So we didn't know how things would have played out. So once we had returned to government, then we would have had a budget in place. So after the first COVID case was discovered on the 11th of March, your government then went straight into action, headed by the Minister of Public Health, then the Honorable Volta Lawrence, and her team. They started to put measures in place to fight against this pandemic, because we had seen or observed what was happening in China, what was happening in the United States of America, what was happening in the UK, in India, and even some parts here in South America. We were able to see what was happening. And our population, being a small population, we said, well, look, we have to ensure that our people, the health of our people, is taken care of. So we started to put measures in place. We had a task force established where you had, technical staff from varying ministries, also RDCs, NDCs, and even persons from civic society. They too sat on the task force so that everybody can now pool their ideas, pool their suggestions, how we can fight and overcome this thing, COVID. What we also did as a government is that we ensure to curb the increase in deaths or even in the infections. We were able to put measures in place, such as, having shift system worked out at the various offices. We also had um, curfew time put in place. We had from 6 to 6, then we revised it from, I think it might have been from 8 to 4, thereabout. But with the curfew in place, we were able to see a, you know, at least full control of the numbers not growing. Even transportation, you couldn't have persons traveling in a transportation at 100% capacity. The road transportation, the air transportation, the water transportation, we had percentage of which persons could have traveled. But when the administration took office, by illegitimate means, they were all installed with the help of the of certain external forces and elements. I don't want to describe them in an unsavory way, but we know exactly what played out, who were the key players that would have caused us to be pushed out of government. So when they took office in on August 2nd, 2020, our debt for the whole of the 5 months, our debt rate was 21 persons died. The death rate was 21 persons as compared to date, 341 days since they're in government. And the death rate now stands at 484. 484. So even if we're to subtract the 21 from 484, it would give you anything about 460 something, 463, thereabout. So what is that saying? Is that they're being in power for 341 days. Therefore, you're on average, you're having close to 2 to 3, the maximum, of persons dying per day. And this is alarming. This is alarming. So the cases, the confirmed cases as at 2nd of August 2020 was 474. 474. Now it's close to 11,000. It's close to 11,000. The last figure I had, it was 10,389. So we're heading to the 11,000 mark. And we're also heading to the 500 death rate, because 84 and 16 would make 100. So you have 16 more deaths, 16 more persons to die before we actually reach the 500 mark. And this is a sad, sad affair. And what these people said to us, with all that took place on this after the 2nd of August, 2nd of March 2020, sorry, they said they had a better plan. They got a plan. We were using COVID as a hoax because we don't want to get out of power and out of office and all kinds of things. We asked them to come and sit on the task force because we realized that we need all on board, whether you're PPP, nobody, somebody. We saw the importance of having each and every stakeholder on board. They refused. And what they had was a parallel task force running against the government, saying to their quote unquote supporters that don't worry with what APN you saying, y'all worry with us. That is what that wicked regime did. So we cannot trust them. So the whole COVID situation has now spiraled out of control. And then they will have the face, because the light tell lies with a straight face, a straight face. They will come and sell you dreams with, and you will buy into that. So what they did, they're saying to people that we are going around having these whisper campaigns, and I'm going to touch on that at a later time in the program with regards to the vaccines. But to date, they cannot say to us, this is the plan, this is the PPP plan to fight COVID. But you know what? We in the APNU AFC, we can show you the plan that we had, the plan that we handed them over. But as I was sharing with Randolph not so long ago, the People's Progressive Party, Civic, once the idea doesn't come from them, once the idea is not birthed by them, believe you me, once the idea is not conceived by them, they will not continue on that road. It is either they will take it, try to tweet it, and make it sound it is theirs. So these are a set of people you cannot trust them. They ought not to be trusted. That's why I do believe that their time in government is very short, because they have started on the wrong footing. They've started on the wrong path rather than moving this country forward. We're in a pandemic. I rather to see how best we can fight off this thing so that our country can open up to full capacity to 100%. They're not doing it. But you know what they're doing? I think since May month, we haven't seen an updated, gazetted order to say that, well, look, we have changed the curfew from XYZ. This is what we put, this is what the new measures will be. We will have, like, staggered hours of work in the various workplaces. They're now saying to people, now saying to parents that school is likely to open in September. Yesterday I had a walk I was in my constituency, and one woman engaged me. She said, MP Ferguson, how can these people talk about opening school? I, I mean, I'm a mature woman and wearing this mask all day, hours on your face. It isn't easy, much less what those little school children will go through. So these people had good comment, Ferguson. I trust that you in the opposition will say to this cabal, this illegitimate cabal, that no way can schools be reopened in September when you got hundreds of children who have now contracted the COVID virus. How you want to say how children now getting this disease? How are they now being affected? But you know what? The one who heads the ministry of, or who has control over the ministry of education, she wouldn't come out and say, well, look, this is what the ministry will do to ensure the safety of our people. All that they are interested in, one, ensuring school reopens. Two, because you know why? Teachers are complaining. We don't have, teachers got to put monies into their phone to ensure that data is there to ensure that continuous and consistent learning takes place. Parents are complaining bitterly. I only have one smartphone, Miss Ferguson, but I got 4 children going to school. And so I gotta be sharing, or they have to be sharing that device to ensure that they complete their homework or their assignments. Sometimes the internet is so crappy. The internet is so crappy. So many people are at a disadvantage. So rather than you as a government working to find solutions, work with the opposition, because we too have constituents and we hear from them. We know of their challenges. We know of their constraints. So when you bring it and you put it forward to those in government at the moment, everything is going on deaf ears. Every single thing is going on deaf ears. Last year alone, you brought a budget claiming it's an emergency budget. An emergency budget in a COVID environment. I'm trying to remember the exact theme for 2020 budget. But you know what? In that budget, you had $95 million set aside to purchase what in a COVID environment? Where are your priorities? Set aside to purchase new vehicles. $95 million, when that sum of money, purchasing of vehicles could have been put on hold. When you know that we're totally out of the woods where COVID is concerned. So I will now take this $95 million and put it into some other area. We know the areas that should be given the priorities. Health, education, more so education. Because not only you have to focus on the children who live here on the coastland, you have to cater for those children who live way in Achiweb, way down in Aishalton, Hosorora there in region number 1. How are we going to deal with these people? Oriala there in region number 6. How are we going to deal with these people? But no, you want to force teachers, 1, to take the vaccine. 2, you're claiming they're not teaching and you want to blame them. Thirdly, you want to open schools. 4th is that all the casinos, all the bars that are friendly to you, you got them running as per normal, as though COVID is no longer here. That is why our figure 484. That is why 484, because there is no proper enforcement on the COVID rules. You go down Georgetown, minibuses running 100 capacity. Go to the waterfront, see what's happening with the speedboat operators there. See what's happening in the taxis, that work in these short drop cars that are providing taxi services. See what is happening. Go to the marketplaces, see what is happening. Vendors unmasked, shoppers unmasked, no social distancing. So my brothers and sisters, I want to say to you again, if we really want to enjoy what this oil economy has to offer, we as human beings, we have to protect ourselves. Because this PPP cabal, they have no interest in you. They have absolutely no interest in you. All that they're interested in is ensuring the passing. You don't even hear. You don't even have cabinet, post-cabinet press conferences so that we, the people, can get an understanding or a picture of what projects cabinet would have approved, where these projects are likely to be executed, who, which contractor, from which country, which company have been awarded the projects. We're not hearing these things. So that is what they are deeply involved in. Secrecy, secrecy. While the nation's people, the nation's children are suffering. So I call upon you, parents, fathers, mothers, aunts, uncles, whoever you are, to ensure that you take full control of your family and protect each other. Mask up, wash up, and maintain your 6 feet apart, because the People's Progressive Party Civic, under Mr. Third Term in the background, they have no interest in seeing the lives of our Guyanese being protected. So it begins with you. Mr. Crawford, a pleasant evening to you. I am well, thank you. What about you?
Well, I can't complain.
Okay, thank you for joining me again. Well, I've been, trying to focus my discussion so much on COVID because as just before you came in, I was sharing with our listeners and the viewers that COVID is real. And the figure today stands at, that's the death figure, stands at 484. The, in, the infected figure now, or the affected cases now stands at, I think, 10,389 when I last checked, right? So the numbers are growing, and the cabal has no interest in addressing or arresting this runaway horse. So thank you for joining me. So I don't know if you have any opening statements to
From,
make.
from my observation, it's clear that people don't care about what happens to the COVID infection rate. And if from the time they refuse to embrace the opposition to help stem the spread of COVID, we would have seen that there is no care or concern about the general population. And you mentioned a couple of things, not enlightening the public on cabinet post-cabinet conferences. It clearly states or shows that whatever they're doing is self-centered, and the people were used as voting blocks just to get them there, cause a ruckus with the international organizations. And now it's to hell with everyone. We will do it what we want. So what we are having here is more than a dictatorship. It's an authoritarian behavior. And until the masses start to realize that their voices must be heard, because an elected official cannot manhandle the very people that they beg for support. So we have, as a nation, we have to take stock in ourselves and says, is this the road we want to go down? There is nothing wrong with voting for somebody who you don't appreciate or who don't have the same ethnicity, as long as they are more courteous and approaching and concerned on the welfare of all Guyanese. So until we stop voting race, we will not be able to progress as a nation. And that has been our problem because of the racial division. And it will continue to plague us until we start to educate ourselves that an outlook of a person's doesn't mean that they don't like you or they're not good. And one is not better than the other. We have bad people in both major ethnicities. So we need to start to do the things that will benefit society rather than be on a racial platform. Hence the reason why the COVID situation, this administration seems not to be bothered. I don't know if the behavior, it's a plan, something to do a population reduction. They're giving you vaccines that are not, clear what is in there, if it's good for us or it's not. And they're not coming out there and educating the public of what, process they're taking to make sure that the vaccine issued, it's safe for us. Everybody, everything is under secrecy.
Yes, well, what I will do, I will go to the vaccine segment in a while, right? But what I want to find out from you, I know that you reside there in East Berbice quarantine. So, what is the percent? Because I've lost track of what
See,
percentage rate for the various regions thus far with the vaccine intake. So can you say to me what's happening, whether, the region, it seems as though nothing is happening in
not
terms of COVID free, people just going about their business as per normal?
right, because if the government of the day doesn't show concern about the pandemic,
Hmm.
the people in general will follow suit to what the government does. That's why it's very important for a government to conduct themselves properly in office, as the population would have followed suit. But for some reason, if the government doesn't show concern or care, the people do the same. And
Exactly.
the thing has not been up to date as it was on the previous administration.
Mm-hmm.
People are trying to hide certain information from the general public, and it's scary. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know where the hotspots are, and they've gotten frustrated because of the pressures of the flood and other economic impact. People
Yeah.
have option to the win, and it's if I go, I go.
Yes. But
Heard a
good.
few people have passed away with the COVID recently,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so it's getting to be lax. To be honest with you,
Okay. All right. Before we move to the next issue for discussion, you raised a very important point earlier in your elucidation, and that is with regards to the whole racial issue here in our nation. And, we have to call it for what it is. And I do agree with you that we do have a racial issue in this nation. And I think after the last general and regional elections, it showed its ugly head, full blown, full blown. So we haven't healed from the effects, what would have transpired on the 5th of March after the elections. On the 5th of March, we had a little situation, a little unrest there in Lusignan. We had it at Bath on the west coast of
it was,
Berbice.
it was
Good. And we saw exactly who were the actors behind those acts. You had the storming of the school buses, school children, they were injured. We had even a young nurse, a young nurse who was heading home. Her car even got, her car got caught in the whole thing, and she
she
suffered um, huge damages. So I do believe that this conversation got to start from within the family.
that's
Because
where
JR, you will agree with me, it is the family is the basic unit,
yes,
the
racism.
basic unit that makes up the society. Because without family, there is no society.
Right.
So as responsible parents, as responsible adults, we have to ensure that we have that conversation in the house. We have to educate our little ones, because when they go to school, I have seen school children. You got all kind of people, all six races in the school system, and you will see how these children playing so as one, the love for each other, this body looking out for this body, and all manner of thing. But I do believe that as persons get older, I don't know if it's the older folks, in one grouping that would preach this whole racial thing, that would cause it to probably pass from one generation to the other. But I do believe, as a national leader, as a Christian too, and also as one who would want to see Guyana move forward, just as its motto says, we're one people. One people. The six of us, we're one, the six ethnic groups, we're one because we're
Yeah.
Guyanese. When you go to
Right.
America, it's not Afro Guyanese or Indo Guyanese, we're Guyanese because that is what is on your passport.
Right. You see
One
the
nation is Guyana. That is what is on your passport. And we
yes.
have one common destiny. That is, we would want to see our country develop. You're about to say something, sir?
Right. Our problem stems from political aspiration. From before we got independence, we were divided. It was pushed from the plantation, and the politicians know that for them to be in the spotlight or to grab into power, they will have to use the racial division. And you see, our electoral system also was changed in '66. So they used the political division and they nourished it all along. And being that the common folks were not too educated back then, and some are still not educated, they were spoon fed with this nonsense, and they kept it there, and it festered and it festered. And we saw the explosion after the election, what happened. And it's a sad thing to see in the 21st century that Guyanese people are so backward for the wrong reasons. We have no reason to be divided racially when our country has not moved forward for any particular reason. And if you walk around and you look at the amount of people and the questionable characters who are living the good life, these people who are peddling or being racial on the bottom should stop and take stock and say, wait a minute, what am I getting from racism? You can't go into the store and buy grocery with it, so why am I carrying it with me? And, for me, I count myself very, very fortunate that my mother had the courage back in '68 to cross the racial line and get married to my dad. And they both went through hell earlier, but they used the negative to make their life very, very successful. And I myself have gone through that years and years. I don't make it bother me. And the sooner our people realize that here we're all in it together, we should love each other and try to go forward and look at the other countries where they've come from and where they're at. We are stuck in time.
Yes, indeed.
As a nation. And in the meantime, we are being raped economically because of our stupidity. This racial division, we are focusing on eating at each other while the outsiders are raping our countries, and we now are getting our change educationally, economically, socially, all the aspects. So when are we going to wake up and realize that, we are all in it together, we are all Guyanese, and we should look out for each other? I don't know. And we, the voting bloc, we need to start to hold the politicians accountable. If you have a politician who is trying to win a position in government and bring in racism, run that person out, he or she.
Yeah.
We need to have racism in our government or governing of our country. And it's eventually going to happen because the internet has been playing a major role, and the very economic pressure that we are facing in this country right now are going to cause some people within the teenagers, the 20s and the early 30s to cross racial lines. And it is going to backfire on this current administration very, very quickly.
It has started. It has started. So I want to, because we have about, roughly between 10 to 9 minutes remaining into program time. So I want to take your focus now in another direction, and that is the no confidence motions. You have heard, that the opposition, led by the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Joseph Harmon, we would have filed two motions, that is, no confidence motions against two installed sitting ministers, Ben for Home Affairs and also Dr. Frank Anthony. I mean, the big question though, JR, persons might be asking, but then again, why y'all bring a no confidence or bring these two no confidence motions and y'all don't have the numbers? While the numbers are not on our side, what I do know is that once these two motions are debated on the floor in the National Assembly, a lot of things will be revealed.
Definitely.
And the reason for the no confidence motion, more so health, is that we saw If it wasn't for our attendance in the National Assembly on the 14th of June 2021, we would not have known where the Sputnik, the last 200,000 batches of Sputnik V, where it was procured from. And because of our drilling questions in the National Assembly, Dr. Frank Anthony was able to reveal to the House and also to this nation that, well, look, they did not procure these vaccines from the manufacturer. These vaccines were actually procured from a third man, a middleman. And then what was even egregious is that the cost for the vaccine, we paid double the price from the vaccine. So that in itself would say to us that some skullduggery, some corruption took place. And we know that every time this government is in office, our corruption rate always increases. So, as a concerned citizen, as a Guyanese, what are your views
Now,
on the no confidence motion?
the no confidence motion is a very, very good step. And like you said, even though the numbers is against the coalition right now,
Mhm,
that's on the surface. The
mhm,
numbers will be with the coalition through the international membership of the different organizations we belong to, CARICOM, and all these great stuff.
mhm,
Because once the coalition is showing more concern for the population, what happens to the people of the country as compared to the current administration? Now, it puts the Americans, the English, and the Canadian under severe pressure. They were the ones who forced out a democratically elected government for whatever reason, if it's money or just hatred, whatever it is. Now, the no confidence motion, once it's debated, we would have been able to tell the world of the lacks of attention or effort in our health sector or our financial sector. Because why would you want to pay $23 for a shot when it's selling from directly from the manufacturer for $10? They Anthony would have to explain that, because yes, we're in a pandemic, but you don't jump and do crazy stuff without an explanation to the nation. Where is the press conference to the Guyanese, letting them know that they were intending to go to whatever person they were to
mhm,
buy the vaccine?
mhm, mhm,
We knew from America what the cost is, and they were FDA approved over there. Why didn't we get with our great, I mean, ambassador slash ruler? And the same way how they had these people run around the country, why couldn't they have organized with the last admission that they had to send vaccines here? You know,
mhm,
and we are
mhm,
a poor nation, work on getting us on a reduced rate. Now we are having these blown up invoices that we'll have to pay down the road, and it's not even something that is quick to be taken by humans. We don't know what it is. So
mhm,
all these
mhm,
people that were involved in getting PPP into the office, where are they now to say, why are you being, deceptive to the people of Guyana with the vaccine purchase? Then you get a middle person. Then there is also all this cloud about the vaccine, if it's actually what it's supposed to be and if it's effective. You know, we need to hit the streets, because let's say those of you who have taken the vaccine come up with blood clots, or, I've seen where a gentleman and his wife took the vaccine, and unfortunately, he had passed on, and his wife is in the ICU, right? Yesterday.
mhm,
So, what happens to those things? They took it. The gentleman from Region 10 took the vaccine and died a few weeks later. Mondale Smith took it as precautionary and died. So something is wrong with whatever they brought here. It's accelerating the death instead of preventing it.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that we need to. So a lot of people might say, hey, why are they wasting time? But what I want to ask you is why would the sitting government bring a no confidence motion against the leader of the opposition? I mean, I I am trying to look through the Constitution to see if there's, need for such a thing. You already have the majority. Why are
Mm-hmm.
you afraid of Mr. Harmon? You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's, you know, instead of trying to work with Mr. Harmon and say, hey man, let's get this pandemic stuff over with. Let's sit together and talk to the international people for help. Because
Mm-hmm.
not we are suffering with this pandemic craziness now. What about the sugar estate that are going to operate for 8 or 9 weeks instead of 5 months? What are going to
Mm-hmm.
happen to the people economically? The police force is going to be on the strain for when crime is going to be on the rise. Prostitution is going to go on the rise. Broken homes is going to go because of food not being on the table, and nobody seems to want to address these issues. Everybody is talking about no confidence motion and all this nonsense and refusing to have the opposition on the table. You can't run a government without an opposition. It's an
Exactly.
authoritarian. This
Yeah.
is not authoritarian.
Yes, but JR, because time is actually on us. But let me respond to a question you asked. You would like to understand how a government can bring confidence against the leader of the opposition, and perhaps we need to remind them because it seems as though they're not good at reading and even comprehending. Because Article 184 of the Constitution is very clear. And if I'm permitted, let me quote what it says here briefly. When the Constitution states in Article 184 in reference to the leader of the opposition, that is his or her removal. This is what 184 is saying. His or her removal from office is effected under the provisions of the next following paragraph, which says, that is 184.3, where one third of the non-governmental members of the assembly represent to the speaker that the leader of the opposition no longer enjoys their confidence.
Right,
So in essence, what this is saying here, it is the 30. On our side, we have 31 because we can't count Mr. Man, who's a part of the joiner party.
right,
He's added with the government. So the 30 of us, we elected Mr. Joseph Harmon to be the leader of the opposition. And
right,
by right, if he is to be removed, it is the 30 of us who must signal to the speaker that we have lost all confidence in Mr. Harmon. Not
right.
the other way around, not the
I,
government bringing in no confidence against the Mr. Harmon, but this is what they want to use bully tactics. It's a set of dictators and a set of bullies because the same approach or the same play that they would have effected to have David Patterson removed from
right,
the Public Accounts Committee because it is very clear in the standing order. It is the opposition
right,
that would elect the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee because the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee must come from the main opposition party.
right,
But you accuse this man of some wrongdoing which is yet to be proven by way of evidence, which is yet to be proven, but you use your numbers to show to Guyanese that, well, look, It's either we way or no way. So
Right.
if they think that they would use the same approach to bring a no confidence motion against the leader of the opposition, well, let them bring it on. Let
Right. I
them
mean,
bring it on. So they
we,
are using the whole system. They're using the constitution, you know, they've dismantled all the guardrails of democracy. The National Assembly, they had their way with the speakership. They wanted their way with the Public Accounts Committee. Now you want your way to the top to decide who must be the leader of the opposition, or you don't have confidence. That is not none of your business.
right. But
It
now
is not none of your business.
now the coalition needs to start to be much, much more aggressive. And see, the passive or the reactionary behavior is what caused this problem. Now you have to go with brute force and ignorance because that's the only way they would understand. The reason why they're getting at Mr. Harman is because he's starting to be a force and a thorn in their side. And
Mhm.
he's trying to look out for the country. And by asking questions, they get annoyed. Now, I do hope that the opposition now are starting to engage the international bodies. You know, we can't have this dragging our feet behavior now. People are suffering, lives are lost, and they are going to have more severe consequences economically coming down the road. We need to start to force the international organization we are members of to start to come out there and call this thing as it is.
Mhm.
You know it,
Mhm.
it's going to be a year where a broad daylight robbery was orchestrated.
Yeah.
Look at the debt that we have gone into. And I don't know if you can let the viewers know what was our debt prior to March 2nd under the coalition as compared to under this organization.
You're speaking about the debt in COVID.
No, the national debt. We have moved away from COVID.
Oh,
Our economic
I don't have the stats before me, but I guess for my next program I should be able to provide our
you
listeners
see
and viewership
our
with that.
debt went to?
Pardon?
You see where they took our debt ceiling?
Oh, the debt ceiling for the
Yep.
nation. Oh,
Yes.
oh, sorry, I miss when they took over
Mm-hmm.
our national debt was $78 billion, but I will check that back.
Right.
Now, you know what is our total debt? 100 over 132 billion, because when the national budget was passed, I think in passed in oh boy, passed in March of this year, we had I think it was 90 something no 109 billion, but I can check back the figure. 109 billion was our debt, right?
Right.
Now they came back to the National Assembly with two supplementary papers, which were approved on the 14th of June 2020. So you already had, a budget with a
Amount.
debt of 109 billion. So now with the 20 something billion that we passed, the 23 billion that we passed in the National Assembly, your total by way of supplementary and contingency approvals, the total debt now is 133 billion Ghana dollars. And we are just over 6 months into 2021. We will be heading into a recess. The National Assembly will go into a recess come next month, August 10th, up to October 10th of this year. And before, I guarantee you and our viewers, before the end of 2021, they will come back seeking for additional funds, supplementary funds.
I
And
do
these are stories that we have to tell.
I do hope our courts says otherwise
Mhm. Yeah.
because we can't afford what is going on. By the way, just a sticky note for you to in Region 6, where it is a lot of flooding,
Mm-hmm.
to show how these people are, evil. The only people who they approach for their services for the tractors and the pump to pump out water from the flooded areas are must be PPP.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that nonsense. How are you going to heal a nation? And then you hear Ali saying it's a one Guyana. One Guyana where?
Mm-hmm.
You know, standing out talking crap when you're not doing what you're saying. So you see how they're promoting this division.
Yes.
Hence,
Yes.
I hate to say it. I have friends in some of these villages that are underwater. Can they see that the reason why the water is still there in certain areas, all those areas were the areas that were causing problems on the road during the election?
Mm-hmm.
And see what is happening, and now they're crying more than us. They're crying because they're being destroyed. And if you don't turn from your wicked ways, what are you going to be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we can't be loving to each other and go forward as a nation and try to catch up where we've been sitting back 200 years. Look at Trinidad. Look at the little small islands with a third of the resources that we have. Look how far they've progressed. But here we are with an illegal government, and we're not seeing the international bodies coming forward anymore. Are they waiting
Mm-hmm.
for for something bad to happen before they come and voice their opinion, or or actually they're showing that they never cared about Guyanese in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's showing that we are in the colonial days again.
Yeah. Yes. I certainly agree with you, Mr. Crawford, but we're now into program time. And, like always, an hour is not enough for us to touch on all these, critical issues that we would want to really, sensitize our listeners and viewers on. But I want to agree with you 100% on all that you would have said. And I think I have to set a separate program where we can discuss this scourge, this national scourge called racism, right? Racism. I do believe it's a learned behavior. Nobody is born a racist.
Nope.
Nobody is born a racist. So this is something that we will have to have a different conversation on. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you very much for taking time out and appearing again on Across the Waves, where we were able to highlight some of the, you know, critical issues. And I trust that our viewers were able to learn something differently from these conversations. And I want to say to our viewers that the other motion, as I referred to earlier, there are two motions. So the other motion is for Mr. Robeson-Baird.
Right.
And we know that the crime rate has risen tremendously. You can't come to the National Assembly and say, oh, crime has decreased 23%. Where's the evidence? Bring the evidence. Accident has decreased by, let's say, a further X percentage. We want to see figures. We want to see which region
Right.
carries the highest percentage of things. We just
And what?
last week Friday, yeah, just last week Friday, in broad daylight, two gunmen torn up at the Lycan Funeral Parlor home there on Norton Street and carried away $1.5 million. And all the other small robberies we have around the place. Crime is
Listen,
indeed.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah, crime is indeed on the increase, but the PPP likes to hide figures. They like to control and they don't like to educate, to bring the public
Because
up to date as to what is
they,
happening.
they rule by deception.
Yes,
And
then
sooner the people get to realize that they're being taken for a fool, we'll be a better nation. And,
exactly.
and something also disturbing. A parliamentary member and minister, Little Charlie, calling people mosquitoes.
Mhm.
Mosquitoes could be very, very annoying. You're laughing.
Mhm.
You're laughing. I
Mhm.
heard him last year, and he's a foul-mouthed little peon. He's gonna call the wrong person mosquito.
Mhm. Mhm.
We have to start to respect nation,
Exactly.
respecting people. When you're trusted in a leadership position, you have to be much more respectful.
Mhm. I do agree with you. So that is why, and in addition to the crimes, the small robberies and all kind of thing, we got it, the major crimes, the heinous deaths of the Henry boys, the Nourish Sings, and all the other persons who would have died, and their their stories or their murders are yet to be resolved or solved. So these are
How-
yes. So with these two motions before the National Assembly, Mr. Crawford and our viewers and listeners, though the opposition don't have the numbers because it's 31 to 34, we know that when 31 of us stand in the National Assembly, we will be able to reveal all all the facts will come out, and you will be the judge. You will say, I now see. Indeed,
Once
there
the debate
is need.
done,
There is need.
once the debate is done, and the evidence is out there, it must
Mhm.
be forwarded to the relevant international organizations. The ones who are lending money should stop sending money. If you can't have an inclusive behavior to tackle something, then you're not going to get any money. So the opposition is right in what they're doing because
Thank
it
you very
shows that
much.
they are trying to be clear to the people of this country as well as the international people. And in a way, our investors are looking at the behavior of the people in leadership positions.
Hmm.
If we have secrecy and corruption, we are not going to have a wide scale of investors coming here. So our people would have more opportunities. Because remember, 8 weeks of in harvesting this crop. What's going to happen after that?
Yes, yes. All right, good.
Trying for our people, we're trying for our personal gains. And
Mhm.
for some reason, we must get to each and every person and victimize them because they do not see it our way. If you are doing wrong things, people are going to speak out against you. If you're being forthright and honest, no one will criticize you. And that's the
Mhm.
problem, what they don't want to accept everyone. Why look
Yeah.
at people, your hair is straight, so you're my boy? No, judge a
Mhm.
person for what their behavior is, not
Good.
how they.
All right, good. Thank you very much, Mr. JR, for sharing in this conversation with me on Across the Wave. I do look forward to you appearing, so that we can have these sort of discussions and our viewers and listeners would be able to learn from what is actually happening here in Guyana. And I know for a fact that many persons in the region and also North America, in other areas, they follow us on these platforms, and they too, are being educated as to what is happening home here in this beautiful country of ours called Guyana. I want to thank you, viewers, for joining us this evening on Across the Waves. But just before I bring the curtains down, I want to say to you, join us tomorrow at 12:30, between 12:30 to 1:30, CNS Channel 6. We have our program Facing the Nation with the leader of the opposition. But he will not be our guest tomorrow. Our guest will be the chairman of region, the Mahaika, the Demerara Mahaika region, commonly known as Region Number 4, Mr. Daniel Siram will be our guest on Facing the Nation tomorrow. I also want to, on a sad end, to really express my condolences to the people of Haiti on the heinous killing of their president, Mr. Muse. I know that his wife, she is still recouping from her injuries, and I pray God's healing power, and I trust that the people of Haiti will turn to God, because that country really needs, the presence of the Holy Spirit. It has gone through many, 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 many sad things. And I trust that we here in the Caribbean, we here in Guyana would be able to give them the support that they really need in this their time of grief. So I pray God's strength and solace upon the people there in Haiti, and may their head of state, may his soul rest in peace and rise in glory. JR, once again, thank you very much. Viewers, thank you for joining me. I do look forward to you joining me next Thursday for another edition of Across the Waves. Good night. Do have
Good night.
a blessed weekend, and do be safe. COVID is real. May God bless you. May God bless your family, and may God bless our beautiful country, Guyana. Ta-ta.
Good night.